Hello, it's Simon Zutshi here, and in this property education video, I'm going to talk about why landlords are quitting in 2025. We are seeing more and more landlords sell properties. In fact, more landlords are selling and getting out of the industry than there are new landlords coming into the industry. So if you're an existing landlord and you're wondering, is 2025 the time you should still be investing in property, or is it time to sell up? Or maybe you're a new investor thinking about becoming a landlord and you're wondering, does it even work in 2025? That's what we're going to be talking about in this training. Now, whenever you watch a video like this, I think you should ask yourself, well, who is this person? What do they know? And how can they help me? So let me explain very briefly a little bit about myself in case you're new to this YouTube channel. I've been investing in property myself since 1995, and I became a live-in landlord when I bought my first house and rented out some of the rooms. I started buying other properties. By 2001, I was able to leave my full-time job at Cadbury's. Now, I actually really enjoyed my job. It paid really well. I loved the company, loved the people. And hey, I was making and eating as much chocolate as I want. What's not to like? The only problem was I like my freedom a little bit more than I like the job. I only got 5 weeks holiday a year. I don't know about you, but I don't think 5 weeks is enough. So I quit my full-time job. I just did property by 2003. So after 8 years of starting, I completely replaced my income. Now, I'd done quite well, but I also made lots of mistakes. And I realized property investing was quite a lonely journey. There were no YouTube videos like this, no podcasts. There were no network meetings. So in 2003, I set up the very first networking anywhere in the UK for property investors. I called it the Property Investors Network. And now it's the largest and longest running network for property investors anywhere in the UK, 50 plus meetings every single month. And I started training people how to invest back in 2008. And that's what I love to do. That's why I do this YouTube channel. I do lots of free content on my podcast on this channel as well. So I really encourage you to make sure you subscribe to this channel, hit the bell icon so you get notified anytime any new videos come out, because otherwise you're going to miss some great content. Now, what is happening in the property market? On one hand, it's an amazing time to get into property, which I'll cover in a moment. But on the other hand, there are also some things happening, which is why so many landlords are selling up and getting out of the property game. So let's look at what's happening and help you decide what you should be doing. First of all, I think the most important thing we'll talk about is interest rates here. Now, for pretty much a decade, the Bank of England base rate was at 0.5%. Now, people weren't paying as little as that. They were generally paying the base rate plus 1 or 2%. So for many landlords, their mortgages were maybe 2 or maybe 3% per annum. Now, they were renting their houses out, making a really good cash flow, and everything was happening. A rising demand for accommodation meant that property prices also went up over that time period. So in February 2022, interest rates started to rise up to a peak of 5.25%. Now, that wasn't what people were paying. People were often paying that plus 1 or 2%. So many investors went from paying maybe 2 or 3% on their mortgage up to 6, 7, even 8% on their mortgage. And also homeowners were also paying a lot more with their home mortgage as well. So what this means is there were many landlords who had a rental property where the rent coming in was actually less than they're paying on their mortgage. In April 2017, Section 24 was first introduced. Now, this was phased over 4 years, but what it meant was if you own property in your own name, which is the way most people did do it previously, and if you had a mortgage, and again, most people have mortgages on their rental properties, and if you're a higher rate taxpayer, and many property investors, not all, but many are higher rate taxpayers, it means you pay a lot more tax on your property income because you can't offset the mortgage interest against your rental income to reduce your tax. So in other words, people have what I call this double whammy of the cost of their mortgage went up, which means they were making less and less cash flow, even maybe negative cash flow, and yet on paper, they were still making a profit because of Section 24. So at the end of the year, they had to pay some money to the taxman. As you can see, that's not a great situation to be in. And with the property market rising since about 2010 up until 2022, many landlords have seen incredible growth in their portfolio, certainly doubling, sometimes even tripling in some areas in that time period. And so many landlords thought, you know what, why don't I just cash in on my property, pay the tax I need to pay, and invest my money elsewhere. And actually, over the last couple of years, a lot of people have been putting money into cryptocurrencies. Now, you have to be very, very careful there. It's highly risky. However, recently, a lot of people have seen incredible growth within that market. And I know a number of people who've been selling their properties and diversifying into crypto and other types of investing as well. So that's one of the reasons we're seeing many landlords sell. And this is really big, is the change in legislation. Now, the Conservative government, when they were last in power, they said they wanted to change the way that tenants are treated. They want to improve the conditions for tenants, and they wanted to introduce the Tenants' Rent Reform Bill. Now, the Labour government, who obviously won the election in July 2024, they've taken the support. Obviously, they can't use the same name, of course. They've had to change the name, and they tweaked it a little bit. Fundamentally, it's what the Conservative government had proposed, and it's called the Renters' Rights Bill now. A lot of landlords are worried about this, and some of the key things they're worried about are that, well, you can only put your rent up a maximum of 10% a year. Now, over the last couple of years, we have seen rent shoot up massively, but the reality is most landlords do not put their rent up as much as they could. And the theory is, I've got a good tenant here. If I put my rent up too much and they leave, I'm going to have some void periods, which I have no one paying me any rent. And also I'm going to have to pay a letting agent to find some new tenants. So even if people increase the rent a lot and the tenant then moves out, they might not actually make any more money, what with taking the void periods into account and the fees to agents. So this is why many landlords keep the rents very, very low. Now, I think most landlords have realised that maybe they've not been charging the recent rents, and the idea of potentially capping the increase to 10% a year has actually encouraged a lot of landlords to recently put their rents up, and also because of supply and demand. But most landlords don't put up their rent as much as 10%, or not even by inflation every single year. So I think it's something that a lot of people seem to be worried about, but it's not really a problem. What's more of a problem is getting rid of things like Section 21, which is a no-fault eviction, where you can't just kick a tenant out. You can obviously still get rid of them if they're not paying the rent. But part of the problem is the court system is massively backed up. And the reality is, if someone stops paying the rent, and especially if the local council tells them, well, just stay there, which often, unfortunately, the council do because they don't have the accommodation to put people up either, it can be a bit of a challenge. And I think some people just don't like the idea of having some challenges. They want an easy life. And you've got to understand that property investing can be very, very profitable, but it's not always easy. Of course, there are going to be some challenges. There are going to be some problems. And I think any property educator needs to make you aware of those challenges. But the point is, the benefits should far outweigh the disadvantages. If it was completely easy, there's no hassle at all, well, everyone would do it. The fact is, you can get very well rewarded from your property investing. And the thing I love about property is you work once and get paid forever. What I mean by that is you have to put time and effort in initially to acquire those properties. Of course, you can pay someone else, you can pay a property sourcer to find them for you, but you have to be careful there because most property sourcers don't know what they're doing. They've not educated themselves, and they're really not bringing much value to you. But assuming you find a good sourcer, paying them is better than not doing any deals yourself, but I think it's better to learn how to find great deals yourself. Probably the most important thing you need to know is how to find really good deals. Because when you know how to find really good deals, you'll have all the deals you want to do. Deals that don't suit you, they're not in your area, they're too expensive, or they're not your strategy. As long as they're a good deal, you could sell those to other people and you could get paid a fee for doing that. Of course, you do need to be a compliant deal sourcer if you're selling deals to other people. But actually, I think the best thing to do, if it's a really good deal, and if you've run out of your own cash, you should be using someone else's money to fund that deal. Whether it's a private loan or a joint venture where you bring the deal and they put the money in, it's entirely up to you, obviously. But you know what? If it's a really good deal, you should be doing it rather than selling it to someone else. That's my personal point of view. So, whilst many landlords are wanting to leave because of regulation, the silver lining there is, well, if there are less landlords and the number of landlords are decreasing, there are less landlords, there's less competition. And that means the rents are going to go up. Now, there's an affordability level. Rents can only go to a certain level. However, I think we're seeing pretty good pay rises. The Labour government in their autumn budget said that if you're on a minimum wage, they're putting that up by 6.7%. I'm sure there are going to be some similar percentage increases to people who are in the civil service. So in other words, the government is doing pay rises and increases far more than the current rate of inflation. So people will be able to afford more in their accommodation. However, I'm a little bit concerned about if we have all these pay rises, that will come through into our normal inflation. And remember, the Bank of England target is to get inflation below 2%, which it is right now at the time of recording this video. But if we see all this wage inflation, it might push prices up. And what that means is we might see a stall to the falling Bank of England's interest rates, or we might see interest rates actually start to go up again in 2025. It really depends what happens to inflation. And again, I think a lot of landlords, the reason they're selling up is this uncertainty. They're not sure what's going to happen to interest rates. So many of them are just deciding, I'm going to get out of the gain. I'm going to benefit from all the amazing capital growth I've had over the last 12 years. So these are the reasons why we're seeing many, many landlords sell up. So first of all, many landlords are selling because deals don't stack up anymore, especially if you're doing single lets. Many landlords are worried about interest rate challenges. Many landlords are worried about the renters' right bill. This is all the reasons why we're seeing so many landlords selling up. So you might be sitting there, if you're new to property, thinking, is it really worth getting into property? And I think, yes, it is. As long as you know what you're doing, as long as you have some training, and there's lots of free training on this YouTube channel. You have to be very careful when watching training. Any idiot can put up a video, and many idiots do put up videos. So make sure whoever you're listening to actually has got a bit of a track record. They've achieved what you want to achieve, and they've helped a lot of other people also achieve that as well. So be very careful of new gurus who are basically relying on being one or two properties ahead of you. So just a little bit of a warning there. But if you know what you're doing, if you're prepared to put in some time and effort, I think now is actually a great time to be investing in property, particularly because so many other landlords are leaving the industry. That's a great time for you to be coming in as long as you're doing it properly. Now, it's really important that you keep updated with what's happening in the property market. I sometimes meet landlords who've been doing one thing for 20 years, and it might have worked really well for a number of years, but because it's been working, they think they know it all, keep doing the same thing, and they don't realize that the market is adapting and changing. So we have a completely free day of training in January, positioned perfectly to get you motivated, to get you going and make the most of 2025. It's called our virtual property exhibition. We do it a couple of times a year. It's online, so you do it from the comfort of your own home, and it's completely free of charge. Now, I want you to be careful. Sometimes when things are free, you think, oh, is it going to be any value? I've got some of the top UK property speakers who speak at all the big property exhibitions to come and share with you their thoughts on what's happening in 2025 and what are the exact opportunities and how can you make the most of this incredible buyer's market that we have. If you're interested in that, all you have to do is click on the link below this video and come and register for the virtual property exhibition, which is actually on Saturday, the 11th of January. Now, if you're watching this late, if you've only just found this video, well, it's a great reason for you not only to subscribe to the YouTube channel, but also hit the bell icon. So whenever a new video comes out, you're notified, you can watch it. And if there are timely announcements like this, you're not going to miss out. If you're watching it after that date, you click on the link below, you'll probably go through to the next virtual property exhibition. I said we do a few of them every year, so you're not completely missing out. But I would love for you to get a really good insight from some of the top investors in the UK as to exactly what you should be doing to make the most of the 2025 property market. So click on the link below this video, come and register for the virtual property exhibition. It's a full day of training and it's completely free of charge. You can either dip in and out as you see fit, or I recommend you block out the day, you sit there, get yourself a drink and take good notes because you're going to learn so much on that day. And also, a bit of a heads up here, I'm going to be sharing details of the 2025 Property Mastermind Scholarship. You see, once a year, I give one lucky person a fully paid place on my property mastermind program. That's a prize worth £30,000, and you could be the person to win that. And to find out all about how the competition works, how you enter, I'm going to be announcing that on the virtual property exhibition on the 11th of January. So come and secure your place to learn from all the other property speakers and to hear how you could win that life-changing prize. There's lots of other runner-up prizes as well, because only one person gets to win the place on Mastermind. We've had people who've applied multiple times and finally won, etc. Or maybe this is your very first time. Maybe you've only just come across this YouTube. You don't know who I am. Watch some of the other videos, look at all the incredible success case studies we've got for our masterminders. Then you can think, yeah, I really want to do this. You could actually join Mastermind at no cost at all if you are the person who wins this scholarship. And this is not just something made up value. Other people are paying £25,000 plus VAT to come and do this full year of training with me and my team. You could win that completely free of charge. So come and click on the link below, register for the virtual property exhibition on the 11th of January. I look forward to seeing you there. And until then, I encourage you as ever to invest with knowledge, invest with skill.